I am so glad you are here. Seriously, this is one of my favorite events of the entire law school year. And the reason is because it's one of the very first times we get to talk about the possibilities for you and your career. Let me begin by asking you a question. Why are you here? Why did you come to law school? If you don't have an interview-ready response for that, don't worry, I'm not here to freak you out. Most students come to law school not necessarily to learn torts, not necessarily to learn contracts or any other aspect of the law, although those are surely necessary in order to be a lawyer. Most students come to law school to become a professional and get a job. Just like Dean Audier said, that's why most of you are here. Let me see a showing of hands as to how many that fits the bill for. Who's here to get a job, become a professional? Yeah. Yes, honey, that's what I call the Holy Grail. That's what we're here to do. That should make me and my colleagues in the Career Center really popular people. So, for those of you who are here, who here knows exactly what you want to do? Show your hands. Let me see it. Be brave. Be bold. Yeah, nobody freak out. It's, in my experience, it is very normal for that to be a very small percentage of people who come here knowing exactly what they're doing. I don't think I had really much clue. So for the rest of you, let me ask you this. What's your plan? How are you going to figure that out? Again, not here to freak you out. That is what we're here to talk about today. That is what we're here to talk about is the very beginning, the first steps, the very epicenter of your job search. So if you were to analogize your job search to basically like making a house or building a house, one, I want you to remember it's a bit messy. You saw my diagram, and Dean Audier asked, he's like, shouldn't it look like a blueprint? I'm like, it's a messy, individualized blueprint, brother. It's individualized. Yours is going to look different than mine, right? And so if your job search is like building a house, your career is like your house in that you will spend a lot of time there, right? And so for a good, strong career, you want a strong foundation to your house, to your job search, etc. Am I right? Strong foundation, everybody? What do you need for a strong foundation? How are you going to start your foundation? Blueprints. You need blueprints. Without blueprints, you don't know which way to go. You don't know where to put your posts. You don't know how to lay your foundation, and you certainly don't know which way to go beyond that. And that's what we're here to talk about, is how to create the blueprints for your happy career and a productive job search, of course. So one of my favorite quotes is by Charlotte P. Gilman. She says, "Until you see who you are, you cannot take steps to become what you should be." Until you see who you are, you cannot take steps to become who you should be. It's really important, and this leads me to my main point, is that self-assessment is the key to creating the blueprints for your productive job search and your happy career. And I'm going to talk you through all of the steps. I'm not just going to leave it here. But if you think about it, whoop, that's where I wanted to go. Today, we're going to talk about why self-assessment is so essential. I'm going to tell you stories. I'm going to tell you my story. I'm going to tell students stories. We're going to talk about how to do self-assessment and what it is. A lot of people assume it's just personality online crazy things where you build your boyfriend for $5. Somebody said you can do that. I was really surprised. That's not exactly what we're talking about. And three, I'm going to talk about what we have for you at Emory and how to move forward. Next steps. I love next steps. So, to begin, let me tell you a little bit about myself. So, my name is Sarah Bennah. I am a director in the Career Center. I advise half of the 3L class, and I'm also an adjunct professor here, and I teach a really awesome class that y'all should look for. I am very lucky and fortunate to know that I can tell you today that I love what I do. You're going to talk to a lot of lawyers over the time, and you're going to realize it's rare for someone to be able to stand here and say honestly and genuinely, I love what I do. But also note, this is not where I started. So I'll tell you a little bit. So I was just like you, a law student. I'm the one with a little arrow on my face. I did really well in law school, and I decided I'm going to get the best job I can, and I'll figure out what I want to do after that. That best job, the most prestigious, most difficult to get job, I figured that would help me get to where I wanted to go, although I really didn't know where that was. So I did not engage in a lot of honest self-assessment, but I took the most prestigious job that I could get. I did a federal clerkship here in Atlanta, and then I went to a very large law firm in New York called Sullivan & Cromwell. So at Sullivan & Cromwell, I got to do some really cool work. I got to work for clients like JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley. In fact, one of my cases arose out of the failure of Washington Mutual Bank. And JP Morgan was our client, and they purchased the assets of Washington Mutual out of receivership, which is also known as bankruptcy. So a lot of the stuff that I was working on was in the newspaper, and it was very big stuff. $6 billion that case was worth. I also found out while I was doing this very exciting work that I did not really enjoy it. I'm not interested in banks. I don't actually enjoy conflict, and I was a commercial litigator. So I learned also while I was at this giant New York law firm that I took an online assessment, which I'll talk a little bit about, to help discover my top 5 values in life. Turns out my top 5 values in all of life are love, spirituality, forgiveness, gratitude, and curiosity. In mathematical terms, I found out that is essentially not a very good fit for what I was going for, right? So the question is what do you do in this moment? And note, I was successful. I was doing well there at the firm. It's not that we're not here to talk about what you can do. I fully believe that you are in the top 1% of educated people in the world after you leave this building, right? You can do a lot of things. What we're here to talk about is what you should do. So what did I do? Well, I'm not here to prescribe everything I did, but I did some major self-discovery. I actually left my law firm. I went with my husband. I quit the firm and moved to a tent and volunteered in Haiti to build schools and water filters. I felt like that was a closer fit for my values and my interests than what I was doing in New York, and I thought it might help me figure it out. Now, I'm not here to prescribe you leave everything when something isn't a good fit for you and living in a tent in the middle of nowhere. That's not what I'm saying is required. It just happened to be a part of my process. But what I did is I did a lot of self-discovery. I read books, I talked to people, I did online assessments, and I identified my strengths, my interests, my values, and my vision for my life. And when I came back to the United States, I decided I'm going to look for work that aligns with those. And I was fortunate enough to land this job here. I'm not sure I was qualified at the time, but I was very fortunate in that they gave me the opportunity, and here I am. I would call myself a happy camper. Again, that's not always the case, and I feel very fortunate to say that. In addition, what I'm here to tell you about is not just coming from my own experience. Certainly, it's a lot of where my passion arises is from my own experience, but I've worked with hundreds of law students. Since I've been in this job, hundreds of people just like you, and in my experience, students operate under a fundamental misbelief. There's a myth, it's a very prevalent myth, that your grades are what's going to determine whether you're successful or whether you're going to be a successful lawyer. That is not true. At least in my experience, the students who are truly successful are the ones who know what they want to do, or they're willing to figure it out, and they're willing to put the work in to get there. For example, when they sit in an interview, they can talk about why they're excited to be there and really want the job, and they sound intelligent when they do it. It's those students who are successful, not necessarily grades. So as we talk about my experience with students, let's talk about one of my favorites. Wait, no, let's do an exercise first. Whoop, whoop. Okay, so everybody has one of these? And a pen. You need this and a pen. If anybody needs this or a pen, we've got ladies in the back passing them out. My amazing colleagues. Does everybody have a pen and a little paper? Yeah, this is very short. So I want you to take the pen and I want you to write your name in that first box on the left. As legibly as you can. Make it look good. Okay? When you're done, take the pen into your other hand. For those of you who are ambidextrous, this will be far easier. Those of you who are not, go ahead and write with your other hand your name in the other box. This is very complex, as you can tell. All right, I can tell from the conversation we have experienced something here, right? So, somebody tell me what that was like. How was it to write your hand with your non-dominant hand? Somebody raise your hand, tell me. Yeah. Yeah, so we're hearing that using the non-dominant hand was uncomfortable. What else? Awkward, much more difficult than it should be, right? So let me see a showing of hands, everybody. Who here wants to spend their entire career using their non-dominant hand? Right? Well, if you link your non-dominant hand or your dominant hand with your natural skills or interests, the same thing applies. If you don't find work that aligns with your strengths, it's true. I know a lot of unhappy lawyers, and that's not what I want you to become. And so, if you find work that does not align with your strengths, your interests, or your values, there ends up being a lot of dissatisfaction. Again, you can be successful. I'm telling you, you could probably be successful to whatever you set your mind to. But do you want to be happy throughout the process? Right. So this is like using your non-dominant hand. And so the goal today is to help you start to learn how to identify your strengths, interests, and values and help you pursue those. So now, as I told you, now we're back to the story I thought we were at. I'm going to tell you a story about one of my favorite students who graduated in 2014, Kyle. So Kyle was a student I worked with for several years, and Kyle was a natural people person. He could talk to anybody. Kyle was also an independent thinker. He didn't necessarily want to do what everybody else was doing, and Kyle was a natural networker. That is just what he tended to do. Now, Kyle was very driven, had very big goals, but Kyle also had middle-of-the-road grades, which was fine. So Kyle decided that what he wanted to pursue was a giant firm in New York City called Proskauer, Bain, which is a huge consulting company, and McKinsey. Through Kyle's natural strengths, which was networking and people, he got interviews at places that most students with his GPA would not get interviews at. He met a person on a plane who was an old partner who knew somebody, and they got him in for an interview. I was very impressed. So Kyle, although he could get the interview, he found this kind of to be an uphill battle. And he didn't end up getting the jobs that he wanted originally, and as he started sort of in his 2L summer. We're talking about 2L summer right now. My theory is that he did not get the job because he wasn't qualified or because he couldn't do the work. Of course he could. He didn't get those jobs, I believe, because he didn't really want to do that work. He wanted that title, he wanted that paycheck, he wanted that prestige, but he didn't necessarily want to do that work, and I really believe that comes across in his interview. So what did Kyle do? Well, first, Kyle went through a little depression, as many people do, as they figure out that some of the things that they're pursuing are not working. Then, Kyle came to my office and we had a big talk, or several, honestly. We had a heart-to-heart. We started talking. I was like, well, what are you good at? What do you want to do? And so we talked about his strengths, his interests, his values, and his vision for his life. And he decided that he really wanted to be able to use these natural skills that got him those interviews. And he started looking into work that might align with those. So he found a couple of organizations that were pretty exciting to him, and one was called Axiom. Axiom is a really super large law firm that has a different model. It's sort of like outsourcing, although I don't think they call it that. And he found that they have a department called practice management. Practice management is essentially business development for this very large law firm, right? So within a week, he has already found someone to talk to in Atlanta about the summer internship program, which didn't actually exist before he came around. And he actually got the summer internship through that networking, of course, because that's his natural strength. And then, as a summer intern, does anybody want to guess, did he do all right? Yes, he killed it. Kyle brought in 16 clients for Axiom that summer, including one you might have heard of called Frito-Lay, which is a pretty big client. So the question is, where is Kyle now? Kyle got the full-time, long-term position. Here he is. He is a practice management extraordinaire. My word, not his. But he is really happy. He enjoys his work. And this is an email that I got from him a while back after I invited him to something in New York. And he said, specifically and most relevantly, Sarah, I've been killing it at work. My job is essentially to network and uncover opportunities. How's that a fit for my skill set? How's that? Remember when I thought I needed to work at either Proskauer or McKinsey? LOL. Good thing you talked some sense into me. All my best, your all-time favorite student. He is self-proclaimed as my all-time favorite student. I have a lot of favorite students, I'll tell you that. But I've also talked to Kyle more recently than this email even, and he has gotten, forgive me, is that me? Sorry. We'll try it. Okay. I think you can bring it up. We'll see how it goes. I talked to Kyle recently. No, yeah, see, it's better. And he has already gotten 2 promotions since he's been there, and he will be managing several people within the Northeast sector of practice management at Axiom within his 1st or 2nd year of graduating. And the truth is, I really believe that's because he found work that just really aligns with what he wants to do. He wants to meet people and have fun, and that's what he does. So, why exactly do we do this? How do we put this into play? So, thank you. I don't know how to do this. So, the reason that we do this is, first, we've talked about, you identify what you're good at, what you enjoy, and then we try to find work that aligns with those values, right? We do self-assessment to understand what we offer an employer. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. To understand what it is you offer an employer. Actually, can everybody hear me? Yeah. Oh, that'd be great. Can you hear me, Corky? No, you prefer this? Okay, sorry. We're recording. So we do this so that we can communicate our natural strengths. You'd be surprised how many students struggle talking about what they're good at in a way that doesn't sound like a douchebag. You'd be so surprised how many people just do not know how to talk about themselves in a way that is genuine and convincing. And part of the way that you're able to do that is that you feel confident in what your natural strengths are. I'm sorry, this is... I can do this. See, one of the things I realized in my self-assessment is I am terrible at anything spatial relations or mechanical oriented. So this is just a little representation of that. Okay. So, in addition to learning how to communicate your unique strengths, which is exactly what we talk about in my class, by the way, self-assessment is really key within your work, within your internships, etc. This allows you to know, like, for example, when you should volunteer for something because you know you're going to kick it. You're going to kick booty at it, right? So, for example, I volunteered for this talk not because I knew I would kick booty, but because I really enjoy public speaking and because I really want to grow in that direction. Because I know that about myself, I was smart enough to volunteer, and here I am, right? And so in the same way, you can find things that you can shine within your own work without having to struggle. And on the other hand, let me clarify that no job is ever going to be perfect, right? I love my job, but it is not perfect. And there are several things that I have to do that I'm just not as good at, like data collection and management, etc. And what my self-awareness allows me to do is to create adaptive strategies around the things that I'm not as good at because I'm aware that I'm not as good at them. So for example, I hate spreadsheets, but I have to use them. What I do is I have a calendar entry on Fridays that makes me go back and make sure that I'm up to date on my data entry because I would leave it for months and months and months if I could, right? All right, who here wants to be a happy camper? Amen, brother, yes. That's the goal. So I hope that you're convinced. Even Socrates said, knowing yourself is the beginning of wisdom. And I hope that I've communicated why self-assessment is so essential to your success. So the next question is, all right, lady, show me how. How do we do this? What are we talking about? And I'm so glad you asked. So, how do we do this? So again, a lot of people assume what we're talking about is online assessments and building your $5 boyfriend, etc. And again, that's not what we're talking about. But online assessments can be very, very effective tools. So here are several that I really like. A couple of things I want you to know about online assessments is they're usually for different purposes. So you can notice here this is for strengths. Strengths Finder is for strengths. Interests, strong interest inventory is to help you identify those. The values in action is there to help you identify your values. In addition, one of my favorites that's listed here is the Myers-Briggs. The Myers-Briggs, who here has taken the Myers-Briggs? Yeah, a lot of people. I think it is a very powerful tool, and most of the time, it's not quite used the way it should be. I think there's a lot more you can take from it in a career context when it's done really well and you understand what's going on. It helps you identify your natural preferences. In your most natural state, what do you really prefer to do? What do you really prefer? How do you really prefer to take in information, etc.? And then you can take all of your little dichotomies and you can put them together into a personality type. It can really help you know where to create adaptive strategies and where to go ahead and shine, right? I have the best news ever. For the first time in all of Emory Law's history, we have the Myers-Briggs available to all of you. You will be able to come to our program. We will talk through it, and we'll talk through how to use that in your career search. And I'm so excited. I've been fighting for that for 3 years, and you guys are the first beneficiaries of Myers-Briggs being available to all of you. So in addition to online assessments, there are books and books and books and books and books about how to find yourself, how to identify your path, right? Good news is we have several in the Career Center that are very good, specifically in the legal context. And you can borrow those for free. The even better news is that you may not even have to read the whole thing. They have really great exercises in some of those books, and you can just copy those on our copy machine and take those babies home and see what happens, right? In addition to exercises, I really encourage you to use the powerful tool of the people around you. Sometimes the people who know you best may know you better than you know yourself. So for example, when I called my mom and I told her, "Mom, I'm leaving my New York lawyer job. I'm moving to a tent in Haiti," I was fully prepared for my mom to tell me I had lost my mind. Instead, what my mom said was, "Sarah, that is the first thing that you have done in a really long time that sounds like you." Pretty powerful, right? She knew me better than I knew myself as I was going through this entire very long, very expensive process. Funny. One of the things that I suggest in order to take advantage of the people around you, I call it an awesome mirror. Awesome mirror. Ask the people who are closest to you. Pick 2 or 3 people that you know, like your mom, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your spouse, your best friend, and say, "Tell me what you think my greatest strengths are." Actually, what I like to do is I call my mom. I'm like, "Mom, I think you're awesome because 1, 2, 3. And then I'm like, "Now tell me." And that works. And interestingly enough, you might find some patterns. You might find some surprises. People might see things in you that you don't even see in yourself. But I absolutely encourage you to have some powerful conversations while you're here. In addition, you have someone assigned to you who loves doing this, who loves talking about potential and careers. Use your advisor. Have those conversations. Take the tools that we talk about, take them in with your appointments, and talk through them and see what comes of it. In addition to conversations, I encourage you to do some journaling. And if not even journaling, just do me the big, big, big favor of paying attention. Today, what is it that you enjoyed? For example, I call it yes bells and no bells. So when somebody's talking about their career and you're like, you can gag me with a spoon before I want to do that. Like that is what I call a no bell. That is a no bell. Pay attention to that. That is as important as a yes bell. However, for example, if you're in the litigation panel and they start talking and you're like, ooh, yeah, I could do that. I could definitely do that. That's a yes bell. I want you to pay attention to those, and if you're smart, you'll write it down. And one more example or exercise that I encourage you to do is during your internships or externships, do a 2-sentence journal. 1 sentence, you write, "This is what I enjoyed today." For example, I enjoyed researching and finding case laws to support my message. 2, I did not enjoy. So 1, I did enjoy. 2, I did not enjoy. It's really that simple. I did not enjoy the client meeting as much because it felt like a lot of pressure, etc. And my guess is you will find some themes and some patterns that can really help you identify what to look for in your work going forward. Make sense? All right. In addition to these awesome things that we've talked about, we're going to play a really fun game. It's called If the Price is Right. So, everybody here, I want you to partner up, pick a partner, right? Everybody has a partner? Okay. Now that you have your team, what you're going to do is you're going to identify the workplace values that are most important to you as a team, and you're going to spend $1,000 and choose the workplace values that you want to purchase with your $1,000. I encourage each of you to pick your number one workplace value, talk through that one first, and then go from there. So each of you pick your number one, talk through why this is my number one, and then you guys are going to choose your workplace values that you're going to purchase for $1,000. And guess what? This is time limited. You have about 3.5 minutes. Go. Meaning, if you have an interest, I'm going to turn this off because I'm screaming at everybody. Hello? Okay. Hey, everybody. Hey, everybody, real quick. Somebody asked me what I mean by working in top field of choice. What I mean is if you identify something you love and you really want to be a trial lawyer or a criminal defense lawyer, it means you do that, and that's what you do. Otherwise, you don't know. You could be doing all sorts of kind of different types of work or whatever. So top field of choice means you do exactly what it is that you want to do in terms of your practice area or your field of work. Is that clear as mud? Did you do it? Yes, 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 yes. How's it going? Yeah, it's hard. That's the joy. Yeah. Actually, you're very lucky that I allowed you to get 2 of these, because I wasn't going to allow you to get both work-life balance and a lot of money, because you know that often doesn't come together, but I gave you a break. You have 1 minute. There is 1 minute remaining in this exercise. Okay. Okay, good. Thank you so much. Okay, everybody. Ding, 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 ding. So, how was that? Yeah, challenge, right? So, do I have one team or any volunteers that together are willing to come and tell everybody sort of what happened? All right, come on down. I got 2 volunteers right in the front. Come on down, ladies. Let's chat through this. Woo, 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 yes. So, let's tell the group first, what did you choose as a team?
Okay, we can alternate. Thanks.
Oh yeah, what's your name? Tell us.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm Alex Davis.
And I am Precious Johnson.
Alex Davis and Precious Johnson, excellent.
So the first thing we chose for $500 was work-life balance.
For $300, we chose freedom, making an impact / helping people.
And for $150, we had $200 left. We did variety, as in changing work pace.
And with our last $50, we chose free coffee and snacks.
Yes, yes. Those are very important. Those are very important. I actually speak from experience. In our office, we take the snacks and coffee very seriously. As you all know, we have free coffee available in the Career Center. Keep it in mind. Okay, so tell me, how did you feel about the experience? Was it easy, difficult?
The first 2 were actually pretty easy because my number 1 choice was the freedom, making an impact, and Precious's number 1 choice was work-life balance. And then my number 2 was work-life balance, and her number 2 was freedom, making an impact. So it was actually pretty simple.
Actually, it's supposed to be freedom is supposed to go with independence, and making an impact is a little bit different. I'll let you have them both, though, just in case.
Okay,
you
there's
really
a
need it.
comma there. There's a comma that separates it, so we thought they were.
Oh yeah, no, same line, same thing. Forgive me. I did my best to make this as easy of a menu to understand as possible. So you guys had similar values. Well, that's nice. And so part of the reason I did this exercise with a partner is 1, just to get the conversation going, but 2, can you imagine that there might be somebody else in your life who you're going to have to navigate this water with? Sometimes you have a significant other who's going to be like, no, I need you to make some money. I don't know. There could be all kinds of people in your life and ways that might change the way that your values are structured and what you want is important, right? Is there anything else on there that you really would like to have but couldn't get?
Well, I wanted intellectual challenge and mental stimulation.
I think that's a common one for law students, right? A lot of us are here because we're like,
I didn't want that.
not Alex. Not Alex. Don't stimulate her mind. She don't want that. But that's the funny thing is it's very unique, and nobody else can decide this for you, right? Thank you so much, ladies, for sharing and coming and being brave. I have a little prize for you. Hold on. Ta-da! And these are the cutest little bags ever. Thank you, ladies. Don't get too jealous. Don't get too jealous. You didn't volunteer. Okay, so we've covered a lot of self-assessment methods, and the truth is there is no end to ways that you can decide who you are and what's important to you and what you really want to do. I hope that you take advantage of all of these things that we have talked about here and whatever else works for you. Centering meditation, retreats, whatever it is, that's cool, right? It's your path, your blueprint. So good news is, extra good news, I keep giving you all good news today, is I try to make this as easy as possible for you. We at Emory think it is essential, it is very important that you engage in self-assessment, do some self-discovery, and find out who you are before you start making your big career decisions. So one of the things is, you didn't have to take a bunch of notes today. I'm going to send you an email next week with the self-assessment resources guide, which is basically every kind of a overview of what we talked about today, what is available for self-assessment, you can pick what's good, and then including what's available at Emory. And everybody who's here, everybody who signed in, will get that email and you won't have to worry about, oh my gosh, what did she say last week? It'll all be in there, right? In addition, here's also, in brief, I'm not gonna bore you, but here's in brief what we have for you at Emory for self-assessment. So we've talked about why self-assessment is essential. I hope everyone is on board. We've talked about what it is and how to do it, and now here we are talking about what we've got for you at Emory. So we have self-assessment resources guide, which I hope makes life a lot easier for you. Also, Myers-Briggs type assessment and sessions. I split those into public sector, those who are interested in public sector work, and those who are interested in private sector work. And you'll be able, you could go to both. If you're not sure, you can come to both. And I will send you, along with that email, you'll get instructions on how to take the Myers-Briggs online, and then when to come to the session, sign up. That's where you get your results, and we'll talk through how to use that material in a legal job search. Also, I've talked a lot about strengths, interests, values. You're probably tired of my saying it. But I have sessions created called Mining for Your Gold. Literally sieving it out, like SIV, strengths, interests, values. Pulling out your gold from the rest of it is that what you do every day. So you can come to one of my sessions called Mining for Gold, Strengths, Interests, Values, and not only do we help identify some of those professional strengths, interests, and values, what we do is we help you learn how to communicate those in your documents and in an interview, etc. So keep an eye out for those. We have books in the Career Center, like I told you, totally free. You could probably go on Amazon and put self-assessment. I have no idea how many would come up, but we have some for free for you. Also, I don't think I talked about it, I think I skipped it on the last slide, but we have pen and paper worksheets and exercises in what's called the Simplicity Document Library. Are y'all in Simplicity yet? No, okay, good. Don't worry about it then. When you have access, it's how you apply for lots of stuff, for OCIs, all of that jazz, but they have a document library in there, which is where we hold a lot of the information for you. In there, we have things like the practice area inventory. That helps you decide on a couple of practice areas, legal practice areas that you might want to pursue. We have practice setting inventory that helps you maybe identify what practice setting is right for you, like government, nonprofit, public sector, law firm, those sorts of things. We have goal setting worksheets. Again, these are pen and paper. These are like the beta version of what you get from a Myers-Briggs, but certainly there's value to taking a pen to paper and sitting by yourself and having some tears, maybe some wine, and just identifying what's important to you. So we talked about exercises, and again, I'll emphasize that you have an amazing career advisor, I really encourage you to engage with your advisor and let them help you through this process. Take your worksheets in and be like, what does this mean? They're not going to be able to answer that question, but they'll be able to talk with you through it, which can be also very powerful. Again, so hashtag Know Thyself. If I could have found a Know Thyself t-shirt, I would have worn it today, but I didn't look far enough in advance. Okay, so next steps. Again, we try to make this as easy as possible. So just check your email. Be on the lookout for an email from me, Bennah, next week. I'll send you an email with a self-assessment resources guide, and how you sign up for Myers-Briggs. I would encourage you to just look through the self-assessment resources guide, see what's in there, see what you might think for example, I don't know exactly what I'm really good at. The Strengths Finder might be a good fit for you. Some are for cost and some are not, and it'll put in there what costs what and how much it is and where to find it and things like that. Take the Myers-Briggs and show up for one of the sessions. I really strongly encourage you to do that. In addition, mark your calendars for the Mining for Gold sessions that we're talking about, and use those documents once you're able to get into Simplicity. Start doing your little exercises. Talk to people, as we've talked about. I cannot encourage that one enough. And then you use that information and start making a blueprint. Now, we've talked about a lot today, and I'm just going to give you a couple final tips before I let you out just a little bit early. So there's good news in all of this. Sometimes it feels a little bit intimidating to have your whole life out in front of you, and sometimes the package of on your back a little bit of debt. The good news is you cannot mess this up, right? You can't. If you remember my story, I probably went in the exact opposite direction of my strengths, interests, and values, and I did just fine. Honestly, I don't even regret taking the big firm job. I learned a lot. You can learn a lot through things that you don't enjoy, I promise you that. You can't mess it up. But here's my advice. This is not a good strategy. This here is not a good strategy. So what happens is I have, without fail, middle of 2L year, I have several students who come and they tell me, Sarah, I have been pursuing the transactional law program because I think that is what makes me the most marketable ever, and I hate it. I have no more passion, I have no more inspiration, I hate every class, and I don't know what to do. That's a very important conversation and realization, and I wouldn't encourage you to continue on that path necessarily. I would encourage you to pay attention that you don't like it and to help make steps to move forward in another direction. I hear students all the time ask as well, they're like, well, what if I do this? Is this going to pigeonhole me into X, Y, or Z? I do not believe in pigeonholes. I do not believe in them. I don't think they exist. Certainly, it can be a challenge once you've done something and you have a narrative that shows an employer, like I have a lot of experience in this. But the truth is, you can always create a new narrative that, yes, I enjoyed that, but here's the skills I can take from transactional work into my new passion called litigation. My point is, don't ignore it. Pay attention. Write it down. Have conversations, but don't stick your head in the sand. Next, pick up your nuggets. Pick up your nuggets. There will be nuggets of knowledge throughout your experience at Emory. Nuggets of knowledge. Here today, I hope you have some yes bells and some no bells, maybe in the transactional and litigation panels. Also, through every experience you have, classwork, I really enjoyed that coursework. I actually enjoyed that reading. That's important. And along the same vein, realize that no tool that you're going to use, even the Myers-Briggs, which I love, is not perfect. There is no tool that is going to identify you and tell you what to do with the rest of your life. And that's a good thing. But I think many of them, most of them, can give you some major value in your life if you're willing to take advantage of it. So pick up your nuggets, take them with you. And again, knowing what you don't like is as important as knowing what you do. Third, let me ask you, who owns this process? Everybody here knows deep down inside, they don't want to admit it, but everybody knows, I mean you, right? That is the good news and the bad news. I cannot do it for you. I cannot identify what you should be doing with your life. I might be able to help. I might be able to help as you pick your pieces that you want to put together on your blueprints. But that's the good news. Nobody else is in as good of a position as you are to make these decisions and do it wisely. Let me add one more thing. I looked up good pieces of advice. I looked at best advice, and I found that they did a survey of those who have probably already died, but those who are dying or terminally ill, and they asked, what is your advice for yourself if you could look back? Or what is your advice for others knowing what you know now? And this is the advice they gave. Live a life true to yourself, not what others expect of you. Live a life true to yourself, not what others expect of you. That's not always easy to do. I often have students coming who are totally dedicated to public service their entire career at Emory, and suddenly they'll come into my office and they'll sit down and they'll say, Sarah, I think I should look into law firms. And I'm like, why? Why do you think you should look into law firms? You've been very committed to your path of public defense or whatever. And they say, well, everybody else is doing it. That is not a very good reason to do anything. And I ask you, if there anybody in here you would trust and trust with your entire job search and future and career? I really hope not, because you should be in charge of that process, and it's definitely you're the one who can make sure that you find your blueprints to success. We talked about Socrates says knowing yourself is the beginning of wisdom, right? Well, it's also your path to success. Steve Jobs says the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking. Don't settle. As with all matters of the heart, you'll know it when you find it. If you recall, my little blueprint was not real pretty, and it was a little bit messy, and Dean Audier was not a fan. But do yourself the favor and create your blueprints. Self-assessment is the key to creating the blueprints to a productive job search and happy career. One last question. Are you ready? Keep an eye out for my email next week. Otherwise, I have one more announcement. We're finished here. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, everybody A through L. Last name, sorry, A through L, last name A through L. Raise your hands. Yes. Okay, remember this. Right after this, you're going to room 1C. A through L, 1C, 1C, 1C. M through Z, M through Z. M through Z, 1D, 1D, 1D. There is coffee and snacks. Please feel free to grab some. It starts at 3 o'clock. Thank you so much.